Greetings, family. Welcome to the Grand Rising Collective. My name is Kyle Dixon, co-host, educator, and entrepreneur for 20 years. Grand Rising Collective's here is to cultivate greatness in ourselves and our community.
And my name is Kayode Bentley, co-host, educator, and entrepreneur for over 20 plus years. My contribution to Grand Rising Collective is to help cultivate that greatness in ourselves and the community through impactful discussions, seminars, and webinars with my co-host, Kyle Dixon.
All right, greetings, family. Welcome to another edition of the Grand Rising Collective podcast. I am your co-host, Kyle Dixon, along with my co-host, the esteemed brother, Kayode Bentley. Say what's up to the people, Kayode.
What's up to the people? Kayode. No, I'm playing. What's up with the people? Glad to be here. Glad to join in. We got an awesome guest coming in. Kyle is going to continue the introduction, but I'm glad to be here. Kyle, continue to run it. Go.
Indeed. We have an esteemed guest today, family. None other than President, CEO of the International Black Film Festival based in Nashville, Tennessee, Ms. Hazel Joyner Smith. Hello, Hazel. How are you doing today?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Doing well, doing great.
Very well.
Yes. So family, we brought on Ms. Hazel to talk about certain things going on in the film industry. There's a lot of movement coming out of the film industry, especially with Black images, Black production companies, media. We're tied into that because we have our platform here, and it's really about our voices being heard, the diversity of our voices being promoted, and really to support telling our own stories. And we want to bring Ms. Hazel on because she is right in the middle of all this, all this, what they say, that Black excellence and Black films and Black voices. So we definitely want to bring her on and discuss some things with her film festival and just the development of us being in more positions of power in Hollywood, in the media, and even on the internet, dealing with technology as well. So, Ms. Hazel, we definitely appreciate your time, and we definitely want to start off with, of course, like, how did you get into media, right? And was that your initial passion, or like how did that develop into you just get into media in general?
Well, and I'm not going to say it's an accident because I don't believe there are any accidents. But I really stepped into being in front of a camera and working in the media arena when I was in Dallas, Texas, as a teacher with DSID, Dallas Independent School System. And all teachers in Dallas at that time had to teach a class that was on TV. And so you were not only evaluated by your principal, you were evaluated by the whole community. And so the lady that came over to film me teaching that day talked to me about how she would like to do something with children. And so it was close to Black History Month. And I remember I said, I'd like to do something with my kids. So she said, I'd be glad to film it and we'll put it on the air. So that's my first introduction to doing something in media that had a reach beyond my family. So I started that, and I involved not only my children in the classroom, I involved my own children, operating the camera, reading scripts. And so from that point, I had a sense and a knowledge of what things could do. And so my next position and job that I had an element of dealing with films and developing a film festival. When I came to Nashville, Tennessee, and because my husband was a pastor and I was a pastor's wife. So I got a job, and my first assignment was to complete a film festival in 2 weeks. And 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
And raise some money. So, and that was at the Fisk University at the Race Relations Institute with Dr. Raymond Winbush. That was my assignment. So I did it. And with the help, God sent me someone. He sent me a student and said, Miss Hazel, they're filming over at the old prison. Let's go over there. So we went to the prison and they were filming. A New Yorker, her name is Nima Burnett, was filming at the time a movie called Silver Brain. With Most Def. So we went over, we went over to that set, and from then on it's history. So that's how I got into. I was actually on the set. I actually got to know people who were more than happy to share. Nima didn't know me from Adam. She didn't know me at all, but she shared. She hadn't even put the film through the editing machine. She'd done no cutting, no editing. She brought it over to Fisk and screened a large portion of that to our first audience. And because she used extras that came from the housing community, the room was packed because they followed that to see themselves on the large screen. And ever since, it's been history since then.
Wow. First, before we go, I want to say Fisk, holla, you know what I'm saying? So, just, I want to say that, because that I am an alum, so, and again, Fisk is one of those, storied institutions that's getting a lot of press in the news. But yeah, Fisk, again, that part I didn't know. I remember when they were hearing about them filming Civil Brand, and then just your story, Ms. Hazel, just like from the, from getting it from education, to getting together in 2 weeks. That's
it was a steep learning curve for me. Yes. Understand what my background and where I came from. I grew up on a farm in an area called Reedsville, North Carolina. That's in the heart of the Piedmont, right outside of Greensboro. Most people know where the sit-in started. So I was about 30 minutes from there on a 147-acre farm that's on a fourth generation. We are fourth generation landowners. So, the biggest thing that I'd seen anywhere close to anything was television. So I dreamed like everybody else. One day, I'm going to do this. I want to be this. I want to be a part of that. So I did know a little bit about the Cannes Film Festival. Was the only thing I knew, because at that time there were no Black film festivals.
Wow, and that's the one in France, correct? That's the one.
Yeah, that's the one in France, and the oldest and the first one started though in Italy, but France is the larger one and the better known around the globe. So I had to study real hard. I had to work real hard to learn about a film festival. And at that time, the American Black Film Festival was starting in the islands with Jeff Friday. Jeff Friday. And the magazines were talking about him. I believe that my first article was maybe Black Enterprise and Essence. So I read everything I could get my hand on, and everything Jeff Friday said, I followed it like he was God speaking, because he was doing what I needed to do.
Yes.
And there was a young man at the school who found out that I was doing that, and he had been to Jeff Friday's festival. So he said, "Oh, this is what you do. and you need to get some of this and you need to get some of that Mark Jackson. So he helped me quite a bit to understand what a real festival is like, because at the time I had not been to a festival.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, I didn't even know what one looked like and what happened at a festival. I mean, other than, you know, what I read about Cannes. So I understood that quickly we would not only have to, I would have to come up to speed, but then we'd also have to nurture our community to support that idea, you know, because this is new. It's new to everyone in the community, Black and white, and in the South. And so, so it was it's been a long road, and but this is one of the most interesting arenas to be in, because something changes every day, and there are new opportunities every way that you turn in this industry. Yeah.
Indeed, and 17 years in, correct? 17 is the 17th annual.
Yeah.
17th
Yeah.
annual family, 17 years in. So
Right, and
10
now, but I've been doing this for 20 years. It's been longer because, you know, just like anything else, we could not continue on the campus at Fisk because the university had its own challenges. A film festival is a challenge, believe me. And to raise funding while you're, you know, you have to decide, wait a minute, is this going to be for the campus, for the community, for the students? And we didn't sign on for this. So we had to separate ourselves and move as an independent film festival. And that's been 17 years.
Carl, but my question is going to be directed more to young people, because the media industry is such an influence on them. Whether it's music, you know, whether it's sports. So, Ms. Hazel, my question is, what advice would you give to a young person who's trying to pursue a career in, let's say, the film industry? Because we hear so many, I don't want to jump ahead of our questions, but your start putting that film festival in 2 weeks, right, was amazing. So what advice would you give to a young person that wants to get into the music industry? Would you suggest that because a lot of them just want to be actors and actresses, if they don't want to be the next LeBron James or the next, God, you know, I'm just saying, no disrespect, Nicki Minaj and, you know, those other singing artists and stuff like that, but those, you know, that seek for that attention and that fame, what advice would you give a young person coming out of high school, you know, pretty much starting in college, like the course that you taught? What advice would you give them in regards to the movie industry?
Well, we've had the opportunity to say this over and over again to young people, because we're called to speak to young people about the entertainment industry and how you enter. And the very first thing that we talk to kids about is know yourself, what you like, because in this industry there are many doors, and it's like, you know, the wrong door can lead you somewhere you may not want to go. So you've got to, so if you have a talent, and you said music, but I think you meant film as well, but all of those are so connected, music and film. So if you are interested in film, then my suggestion is to know as much as you can about the industry and where in film you want to go. Because like a city that has many employees, so does the industry in itself. It takes a small city to put together a production, a movie that is going that you will see on this large screen. So understand that. So if you, it must have accountants, it must have attorneys, it must have teachers, it must have police officers, firemen, and that's the auxiliary help. Then you go to the science of the industry. So writers, directors, line producers, executive producers, assistant producers, interns, all the way around. And so what does that mean? So you must be able to deliver what the filmmaker is looking for. So, and we especially do this with HBCUs, because now HBCUs are becoming a high commodity.
Yes.
For everyone, but particularly for the film industry, because this is virgin territory and there is a pool of untapped talent. Untapped. And so which concerns me, because we can do well with the academics and, part of that. But if we're not into that industry, then the best curriculum may not be in place, and nor the talent that you have in the classroom to help the student. And we have seen places where those things, where they're not ready. There's a desire to bring this about for the students, but the school may not have what it takes to build up to that. And they certainly can't compete with an NYU, a Temple University, or UCLA, all of what's on the West Coast, and the film programs that are everywhere. So, which means that our students, unless extremely aggressive in themselves and the program, get behind. So what we try to do is our film festival is like a show and tell. We show you what you're going to need to do. So we worked heavily. I'm going to use the school here. We have 4 HBCUs within Nashville proper. So going to the HBCUs, and we carry with us a person that's an executive in the industry. And we had an executive in the industry in front of kids, and he was asking questions, and the students were extremely shy and spoke very low. And he said, "Do you expect to come to Hollywood? Do you want to work with me?" And they all said yes. And he said, "Well, this is what I need for you to do." He said, "You must present yourself in a way to show me that you're ready and that you can speak to the public and give them something that will make them want to hear you and to know that you are ready." He said, "At this point, I wouldn't take either one of you." So he was very, very straightforward and to the point.
Yep, and they received that.
And he said, "I wouldn't take a one of you." But he was with us for 4 days. By the end of his 4 days and working with those students, he invited the entire class to LA.
Oh, wow.
And the professors were, so you got to have willing professors. The professors were actually excited. So it's an annual trip for that class. They go and they get internships, and they are involved, and they are now producing better work. And their demeanor says that we are ready. And the school now has a pool of students that can step on in a position as an intern. and work, right? And so when the people that do the hiring say that, that's the reason we take what we do with IBFF is we've got to help people to see what it is that it takes. It's more than you realize. And so, and I as a teacher, this is what I know, Miss, just like you said earlier, I want to be, when I grow up, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'm gonna be a football player. I'm gonna be a singer. I'm gonna be a dancer. Well, part of the teacher's job is to help the student to understand what they're going to need to do in order to be prepared to even compete.
Correct.
Because every student in every other class around the world has said the same thing. Right. So you can understand, you know, you in a pool, or you in a big pool. So your competition may be sitting right next to you, you know, and what you gonna do? What you got, brother? Bring it on. Right. So what we have to do, you know, it is our job to make sure that we put people in front of the youngest to the eldest person that wants to enter this industry. And that's the way it happens. Because I was sitting at my office is in an area called the Film House. And so they are often auditioning for a new show or movie that's coming. And there were these two ladies out there, they were in their 80s. And so one said to the other, "Are you trying out for the part of Mrs. Claus?" And the other said, "Yes." She said, "Girl, I love this. Look, I make all the extra money I need." And so that, you know, that is their livelihood. It keeps them young, it keeps them active, it keeps them involved, it keeps them from being alone. So they come every age, there's something for every age to do. So they both got a role. One was Mrs. Claus and one was a helper. Okay. So, you know, so those things, and you see it with every age. We work with young people, with young kids. We have a segment in our festival this time for young people called Stand Up, Move Up. Yeah, Stand Up, Move Up, and it's all designed by young kids, and I think they're the ages from 7 to 18.
Yeah,
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Right. So,
Wow.
Yeah, well, we want them to know, so they have to know everything, including they had to present their budget, they had to present their ideas and their program to us, who they would like to have. We have a long-term goal. Because many of them, so we find out what it is that they like. What is it on TV? What is it on the big screen that you like? So everyone loves the show Stranger Things.
Yes, that's one of my favorites too. One of my favorites. Yeah,
right. So our goal is, so we did an exploratory a little exercise. What do we have to do if we want them here? If we want to bring them to Nashville, and that's our goal. So they have to do research, you know, and so they're coming up with the best way, and they have to reach out to the writers, directors, and producers. We'll give them a little help here and there.
Yeah.
But they have to reach out, and then they have to design and make it attractive. For why would you come to Nashville, Tennessee? We know it's the it city, but what's the it? So that's one of our goals. And if this happens, you know, we want you all to come, so you can be a part of that. And we know that they have done this. The whole cast has gone to school systems and gone out to their audience, their supporters, their fans, and they've done these things before.
Awesome. I have a question.
Mhm.
And this may be a tangent off, Cal, before you ask your second question.
No, it's fine.
Miss Hazel, what is your viewpoint on Tyler Perry's studio, and how much of an impact do you think that has had on our community, our culture?
Yeah.
Like in
Because
general.
he has that negative side that people are like, oh, Tyler Perry, you know, he does these type of films, but you know, business end, you know, the brother seems like he's making a lot of great moves for Black Hollywood or just black people in power positions.
Well, you can't talk about film unless you talk about Tyler Perry.
Oh, okay. That says that. Gotcha.
So Tyler Perry has opened the door for a lot of people, and he employs a lot of people. And his statement and compassion for the film industry is undeniable. And the work that he has and is doing. I just watched a movie of his that we're hoping to screen in the festival. We're reaching out to him to show a Jazz Man's Blues. And it is not the typical Tyler Perry movie. You would not believe this is a Tyler Perry movie unless you're watching the credits. And so I have great respect for Mr. Perry and what I know that he's done in the industry. And because of his work, when I sit in a boardroom with people who may not have recognized the impact that people of color have on the industry, I can use him as an example, a ready example, and what he did for Lionsgate. And what he did for an industry that was losing every day, and how that it was not inclusive. So he helps you to substantiate the reason why we should be where we are. And he has also shown that he can bring a diverse audience to the theater, whether we like the subject or not. Indeed. He has proven he's done, I didn't do it. He did it. And then on top of that, economically, look what he's done for Atlanta and how he's poured into the community, and then the influence that he has now worldwide. When the lie was told all around the film industry, Black people can't sell a film in Europe. You can't go to Europe with a film unless you're Tyler Perry. Now we know that that is not the truth.
Yes. We
know that that is not the truth. I've been approached, and as a matter of fact, from a young man in Nigeria wanting me to see if I could get Tyler Perry to come to Nigeria. I said, well, I'm not in his camp, but I'm sure you send something to his camp, he'll consider it. It has to be So I think Tyler Perry is extremely influential, and that he has done more than we'll ever know. When he opened his new studio and he had that large, extravagant opening, it was during the same weekend that we had our film festival, and we lost some of our talent that was coming to Nashville to his opening. Right. And one of them was, what is her name? She sung her acceptance speech at the
Shirley Ralph.
Shirley Ralph, and Shirley was coming, and I said, Cheryl, can you reconsider? How about swinging by here? Because
right.
3 hours.
Right, because it's only about 3 hours away.
Yeah, and I said, if you swing by here for a minute. She said, girl, are you crazy? I still have that. Are you crazy? Tyler is sitting in a jet for me. Are you sitting in a jet for me? Are you crazy? I said, I am. You know I'm real crazy. Because I didn't know. Tyler didn't send a jet for me.
Right, right.
Right. So, people got work with Tyler when nobody was hiring. And, he's launched many careers,
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I have great respect for Mr. Perry.
Wow. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing it, Hazel, because I've had some, issues with, to be very honest, family. I've had some issues with Tyler Perry, some of his content, but I do respect the brother's business acumen and what he's done to
Yes,
make moves.
yes.
Because even though I may feel some type of way about it, he's still making some pathways and trailblazing for those. So even if I don't like his thing, he's still trailblazing for other people who do things differently than he is.
Right, exactly.
Yes, I appreciate, And you said a lot too, because one, you mentioned like the power of HBCUs, and then you mentioned the power of exposure. Like that's one of my beliefs as an educator is that, we do lack certain types of education for our children, for our communities, but it's never been a lack of intellect. It's been a lack of exposure.
Exposure and access,
And
right? We've been exposed to somebody else's idea of who we are, what we can do, and how we do things, and the image has been distorted totally for people of color. So, now we have an opportunity, and that's where, if you come into the fine lines of where you talk about Mr. Perry, some, dressing, how women are depicted, and some of, some of the content, as you said, then, you can question those finer things, but, Milton Berle did a lot of stuff too. A lot of people.
Flip Wilson too.
Yeah, Red Skelton, all of those, Flip Wilson. And I am going back and watching some of Flip Wilson's, some of the skits and things. And he was multi-talented, so, wow.
very much so. I didn't know how much I read. Ms. Hayes, I read a book on Flip. It's called Flip. It was a biography book. Came out a few years ago. Picked up in the library, random. It was a great read because I didn't know how much he was involved as far as creating trailblazing in TV and Hollywood and things. So I was like, wow. And he's one of those famous comedians, but he doesn't get brought up in the canon like the Red Foxes, the Richard Pryors.
Right.
They miss him.
They
but
do. They miss him altogether, and I wonder why that is. But they do. They miss him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he disappeared suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
When life, and when I was growing up, life of your entertainment and how you relax was certainly, in my family and in my community, was built around TV shows. Oh, I can't do that tonight. I'm gonna watch this is the Cosby's, Red Fox, Good Times or whatever. I'm not gonna miss Good Times, I'm not gonna miss this or whatever. So it was very important. And Flip Wilson, because he exposed us to other people that we did not see or had been forgotten in an industry. So, that's the reason we look at, well, what is this show doing for a community and for the industry in itself?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. And Ms. Hayes, could you speak on, because I know we've talked numerous times, and like you said, the history of like Black images in TV. Donald was it Donald Bogle? Is it Donald Bogle?
Yes.
The famous writer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know he talked about in a lot of his books, like the progression of images,
right,
on TV and in Hollywood. I didn't find out about Oscar Micheaux until I saw Spike at a talk back in Chicago where he mentioned Oscar Micheaux. I'd never heard of Oscar Micheaux, and just could you speak on, like, just from you coming up and just the progression of Black images with men and women, because it's something that we talk about a lot, but it gets a lot of fanfare, gets a lot of like disagreements, arguments, debates, because it's like when we have control of our images, you know, we're seen a certain way. But because it seems like we have not had full control of that, things have been projected about us that may had a negative effect and had us seen in a certain negative or lower than perspective. Could you speak on that?
Well, yes, and I just think about, I think that's still one of the major challenges that we still have to work on. The accurate depiction of who Blacks are, and then how we value and see ourselves. This is the reason we still have a lot of work to do for us, and learning all about that. And what people, some things, I'm shocked. Why did anybody say that about me or make me look like that way, or want to disfigure who I am as a woman, and why am I at the bottom rung of the totem pole in the world as a Black woman? Why? Who does that benefit? You know, what does the depiction of that we are less than, or that we are simpletons? My sister just used the term. She said, Hazel, I had someone that thinks that, she says, some people think you're boo-boo the fool. I said, what is that? Because they can say, because you don't say things back to them, or you know, you're not always, I don't want to always have on my academic shoes, always, you know, that I've got to spout something off, or lay my degrees out in front of you, or, you know, whatever, to show you that I'm a human being, and I'm due respect, and I'm due the kind of reception that other people receive around the world, you know. So these depictions, it's going to take a lot to change some things, you know, that that we see, and it's going to take a lot to get out of you, like us, what you see, because the demoralization of a race of people, they did a doggone good job of doing it. I was in this movie, Jazz Man Blues. I was surprised to see a hanging. But I think it's built internally in us as people, that we know that this is possible at all times, with, if a crowd of people gather that could be white men, you know, this kind of thing could come up. And how did that become so? And so, you know, that I don't always want to be seen as, you know, that you possibly can hurt or harm me, you know, swinging from a tree. And women always, there are some movies, if I cannot take the fact that they always want to have some kind of voodoo, and it's always a Black woman, a woman, you know, that the place where they want to respect you or listen to you or come to you is that kind of thing. You got to be, you know, magic. I never liked the term Black girl magic. I don't say that. I said Black girl. I would not say that, and I don't subscribe to that. Because what about Black girl talent? Black girl gifted?
Wow.
Why does it have to be magic? Because there's some other connotation behind that. So I shy away from that. So then you never get to who you are, you know? And sometimes we reach for things that we go to the extreme end, you know, to say we're this and we're that, you know, to a point of this is who I am and this is what I know. I'm a talented mathematician. You know, I'm gifted here. I'm a singer. That this is part of who I am. I'm a writer, whatever. But you know, magic? Come on, no magic. It's talent. This is intelligence.
What
let me chime in real quick, Kayode, just real quick, because I want to chime in on that.
Go.
Miss Hazel, you mentioned something that I'm unlearning and relearning, is that even like with words create words, right?
Right.
So, you know, even some of the things that we use, like I'm starting to get out of the whole, and this is just my opinion, family, and how I'm trying to just change the dynamic of things. What Miss Hazel had mentioned with the Black Girl Magic title and theme. Nerd and geek, like these terms, nerd and geek, I don't subscribe to anymore. And the only reason why is because they're not our terms as Black folks. Those are not terms that we created, and those are not terms that really truly empower us. When we say somebody's a nerd or a geek, like you just said, Ms. Hazel, it's not about nerd. It's you're intellectual. You're a scholar. You're a researcher.
Right.
So nerd and geek has a negative connotation to it, but we try to use it to empower, but it's not our word. It's not a word. No, this young boy is not a Black nerd. He's a Black scholar. He's a Black intellect. She's a Black scholar. She's a Black intellect. She's a researcher.
Right. See, those are terms that we have to insert and attach them to someone that the way that look like we do. And so that means that some of the things, we have a lot of work to do to change the vernacular so that we can, and that's what, you know, in schools, that's the reason we need to see more and more teachers. I am just so sorry. The classroom is seeing less and less of people that look like us. The classroom and hospitals, where we are, again, so very well need for compassion and care and understanding when we have to go to a hospital, you know, and when we need a kind of care that people in your culture understand, right? In the classroom, so much, you know, it's a difference if you watch a teacher. I went to school in first grade through 12th grade in the same school. We didn't change. That was back in the day, you know. And I went to Charles R. Drew School. It was the first high school named after Charles R. Drew in Madison, North Carolina. Yeah. And so it was just different. I just think about, you say a teacher's name and it meant something, you know. You can't go in there crying in her classroom. You better have your clothes right. You better have brushed your teeth. You better don't come in and say your mama said if your mama didn't say, because they gonna go call your what? Your mama or your dad. They were part of the community. It meant something. You know, very, very much so, you know. Wow. So those are some of the things that we have missed, and we believed we hoped too much in half truths, you know, that we thought would happen through integration. you know, and it didn't happen.
Oh man. Oh man, you taking me back to when I went to school. That is so true. Teachers were a part of the community. I thank God. And this is in the 70s. My first grade teacher was a Black woman. And when I think about sixth grade, I'm 6 years old. You know, you're towards the end of your developmental years anyway, how much of an impact teachers have, especially when they're part of the community and you know the reputation of that teacher before you went into that classroom. But I digress. Question, I want to ask a follow-up question, Ms. Hazel, in regards to so that young people understand the, if you want to say, ramifications of the impact of how powerful words are. Like there was this whole big thing on TV for a couple of years talking about Black girl magic. Remember, and that was like an
Right. Oh yeah, I know. Look, Hazel was one of those people. I said, you know, and you know, and very powerful people were saying that. The people that were influential across the board. And I said, I know, they'll understand, you know, what that means. And, you know, and you know, not that people who, you know, have an oracle or whatever, all those kinds of whatever things they believe in, I'm not devaluing them, but, you know, you and I both know that you can wish upon a star all you want. When I wish upon a star, you know, and the little magic one, there's not, now you can touch your own your little forehead all you want. But I just want you to know, and Mickey is and Daffy and all of them, they're not bringing you anything, and my dress is not going to turn into a gown. And I'm not going to be riding the pumpkin or any carriage or anything that says that I'm the queen. No, won't happen.
So for Ms. Hazel, for young people, young girls in particular, in regards to buying into that lie, as it were, or fabrication of our reality, what is the negative, specifically, in your opinion, the negative connotation of the word magic? Like how can you communicate to young people why not to, you know, buy into that word magic? Because the media is so strong on that, they still backing that up. And I think you alluded to it already. It's not magic. It's I'm an intellectual. It's not magic. It's because I'm talented in this area. It's not magic. It's my gift. So I may be answering the question already, but I would like, you know, for you to, if you can, elaborate more on young ladies and young people. The reason why magic isn't true is because it's not magic. It's your gift. So, you know, can you elaborate more on that, or if I haven't already answered that question?
Yes. So do you know one of the things that I think we have to grab young kids as early as possible and tell them help them to recognize their gift and value.
Yes.
You know, this is precious. Yes. You're precious. And the biggest word, we're doing a social justice in piece on as a part of the festival. And we're one of the things that we're talking about is asking kids for young kids, how do you feel protected?
Oh, wow.
So it comes down to the role of being the father, the teacher, the minister, the doctor, the lawyer, those of us that have dominion over and care over the kids when they're young. How do we show? Don't you know the day that those kids were shot in that schoolroom in Texas? Can you imagine them waiting on their parents to come? Who protects them? Let me tell you, this is what I know, and you know this too. If the principal or teacher mistreated you in school, my mama coming up here and you won't be saying that to me. My daddy
head swinging, right.
Right. You wait, my dad, my mama go, And there's some other choice words.
Right.
She gonna get your. So it's the protection that we have. We have to treat children like the jewels they are. And you start that so very early. And say, if you call me precious, well, why am I precious? If I'm a joy, then if I'm a joy, then how am I a joy? You know, if I'm so we have to take all along those stages and phases of development in children, and we have to constantly show that and say that, because there are going to be so many negative things that will not say that and say something opposite.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
So it is being on guard always. You know, and when you stand in front of children to teach, and you know, I don't even know, I hated being a teacher at one time because it wasn't glamorous enough for me, you know.
Okay.
Now I realize later that this was a gift God gave me. And I did not ever, after, well, maybe I did, maybe about my 4th or 5th year, I really understood what it meant to stand in front of kids in the morning and say, good morning, boys and girls. It's time to start our work today. And how we started off every day. I open up, tell me, does anyone have anything that they would like to share?
That's awesome.
That is causing you some pain, hurt, or pain. That would you like to share? And so I always set the tone that you could tell the whole class, or if you needed to speak to me privately, or if you needed to write that, we set the tone for that, right?
Wow.
And if there was anything that upset you, and because we did the news every day, and how does that impact you?
Yes.
I'm team of kindergartners. We did that. I did that with kindergartners everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, all the way through. And
That's
so we talked about those kinds of things, because how am I going to teach you how to spell Israel or whatever, and there's Russia, Putin and whatever, and they're hearing that name, and we're going to have a spelling test that's going to bring up what Russia is. So I relate.
Good. That's good. That's good.
You know, those kinds of things. And in my classroom, it was never a dull moment. I hated reading groups. I couldn't. I would make up a song, and we would do something else. Oh, we're gonna take a field trip. We're gonna go out of here. We're not gonna sit in that circle over there. But we were going to read.
Yeah.
Why that? Oh, Miss Hazel, I'm glad you brought that up, because, and real quick, Cal, why that's so important. I think that should be, obviously we already know the powers that be are, you know, not gonna.
Let me say this. I don't mean that you shouldn't have reading groups. You
No, I know that.
Right. I don't mean that. I mean it just.
We knew what you mean. We got your family. Yeah, she's not saying no.
I couldn't sit still that long. There was too much going on.
No. What's so important that I want to emphasize is you gave your students a platform in which to speak. You gave your students you gave them the stage. You gave them because young people feel that they're not being heard.
There you go.
That, you know, the world is against them. You got all these stereotypes. You got all this stuff. And what you did was you gave them a place where they can come and feel safe. You gave them a place where they could come and be open and vulnerable. You gave them a place to let them know that there's somebody listening to them. And I think that in and of itself has such a profound impact on their development that you just changed their lives just from that exercise itself. And I think that should be one of the curriculums in the Department of Education throughout the United States, to give these young people a platform, because it's the young people that are the creators, they're the innovators, they're the next leaders of the future. So why not?
They are.
You know what I mean? So I think I just had to emphasize that was fantastic, and I'm sure you changed the students' lives. And God bless you. That's all I want
It
to.
is. And Ms. Hayes, I want to add on to what Kayode is saying, because we're educators, I'm definitely 21 years in. And
Yes.
that's what we talk about when we talk about curriculums and the way school systems are set up for our youth.
Right.
I think you were going into it somewhat, and you've explained it throughout the conversation, but you had the care and concern and compassion for the youth that you were involved in. And that's the part that people don't understand or don't understand, is that you can write up all the curriculums you want to. You can have all the structure and strategy, but if there's no love and compassion for the students that you have in front of you, that you really want to see them exceed and excel, even past your own limitations, then it's not going to work as you think it's going to work. And that's the key component,
it is
the
not.
care and love.
Right. So right now, I would love to teach teachers that I know that are struggling in the classroom. Yeah. I know they are, because so much material is out there. They don't know what to do with it. And then there are requirements for teachers now, and then they get new material thrown at them, and from all different parts of the world. And it's, what am I to do with this? You didn't prepare me for this. I don't know how to get this across to my kids. I just imagine. So if I'm a white teacher and every child wants to see Wakanda, what? Come on now. What do I have to, how am I going to talk with that? About that? How am I going to listen to kids, and how am I going to see a spark somewhere that I've never seen? And Charles sitting in the back of the room, all of a sudden he's animated and he's whatever. How do I help shape him or her? When I see all of this energy without penalizing someone because they moved, or they got up and did a dance, or they draw, and they were drawing, they drew something on the paper that looks a little weird, and it's out of character. We're never going to see a black man be a Superman.
Right.
Can't do that.
Right.
So I would just think of that. So I would automatically, I would bring the black comic books, and I would talk about, what's his name? He was the director for Marshall, Hutland.
Oh yeah,
I would talk about Reggie Hutland and I said, look, and I get Reggie on the telephone, because I know him. I said, Reggie, can you talk to these kids about what you do? And as a young man, what made you come up with doing a comic book of all black characters?
Yes.
Come on.
Yes, indeed.
That's what I like to do. And when I get disheartened when I go ask for funding for to do the festival, and I think I'm pitching with enthusiasm and trying to show that what we could do to change the minds and hearts of kids and get them to give their academic best, and and to understand that we love them and we care for their future. But sometimes people don't see that, and they want to stick to the same old, and never venture out, bring things so that the kids can have the experience of what it means to be yourself, and to experience things that they don't see on a day-to-day basis.
Correct.
Yeah.
Man,
the arts matter, family.
No more questions, Greg.
That's what I'm saying. The arts matter, family, and you can make a living off the arts. The arts is something that previous generations felt like you couldn't make any money, make a living off of it, but you can make a good living off the arts.
Yeah. Oh, see, that's and so it's a part of the thing. So everything is about. It's like the world has a big eraser, and they want to erase the things that people have done and the contributions that are made on a day-to-day basis. So and people, some systems
Yes.
that are in place,
Yes.
they actually, take away the soul
Mm.
of communities
Mm.
when they don't allow art to flourish. And, when I've been relegated to a budget that someone came up with and it didn't include me, they didn't bring me to the table. And you say, even let's say the symphony, well, we brought Gladys Knight. And we had this one and that, but even the university, I just think about, I just heard something that was disturbing, but I know that it happens and I know it's the truth. A famous speaker was across town, let's say like at a Vanderbilt, and it could be any university, Ohio State, whatever. And they have the money to bring in say a Kanye West or even Lil Wayne, but how does the other community feel when Lil Wayne won't even drive by? Cornel West, and he's speaking, and I just think about this all the time because this happens all of the time here in Nashville. And yet this community, this more powerful community, uses the Black community in research to get grants and whatever. And then when there is someone that's really powerful that impacts us, that looks like us, I'll never forget, remember the movie The Hate You Give?
Yeah, I did. I went to go see that. Yeah.
That young lady was across town, but she didn't come across here. And I didn't have money to bring her, to put her in front of kids like at Stratford, which is in a place mainly Black school.
Yeah, high school, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
They needed to hear her.
Absolutely.
So sometimes I if I get to the place, I'm gonna challenge and say, so what's your program on sharing?
Good.